Lawin Media Network,
bringing to you the most relevant content across all platforms.
business, legal, politics, health, lifestyle, and entertainment.
Your source for all the news and updates in the greater Houston community from Texas and all over the world.
Get informed and empowered with Lawin Media Network.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pink Table Talk. I'm your host, Dr. Carly D., a doctorally prepared nurse, mentor, educator, professional development specialist, victims advocate, and thriver. So it's been a long break. I'm so glad to be back. I can't believe we're at season 5. We've had a wonderful 4 seasons so far. I'm so glad that you guys have continued to watch the show. I'm bringing to you this season more inspiring stories, more real stories. And later this season, we're going to talk about my surgery story and that journey and through complications. So stay tuned. This season is going to be exciting. We're going to be bringing to you some more amazing guests doing amazing things here in Houston and in this country. So I'm so happy to have you all. So starting us off with our season 5 kicker, we have the wonderfully talented Nurz Rap. She is a nurse, a rapper, content creator, and I'd like to say an advocate. So welcome to the show, Nurz Rap.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's so glad to have you here. I've been seeing your content online. I said, wow, what an interesting artist. Also a fellow nurse as myself. I said, oh, I definitely have to get her on the show. She's very interesting, very edgy, doing a lot of really cool and amazing things. So for our audience, tell us, who are you? Who is Nurz Rap?
Well, Nurz Rap is a combination of a lot of things. She's just, just a girl from New Jersey who's getting through this thing called life, and just making the most out of it as a professional, alumni and, artist, just using my creative juices to keep life interesting and helping share some of my inspiration with other people so they can be also inspired.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you mentioned you're from New Jersey.
Yes.
I'm from New York, so that's like our sister state, but y'all
Hey, yes,
yes. So awesome. So tell us, what was it like growing up in New Jersey, and what is your inspiration from there? Where did you get?
Well, yeah, I was born in New Jersey, and like they say, you can take the person out of the city, but you can't take the city out of the person. Jersey will always be in my heart. I'm proud of my state. A lot of memories there, the school system, people that I worked with, that I grew up with, other fellow artists who are well known, and just the everyday people growing up in, what we would call at that time, it was slightly suburban. It wasn't exactly the bricks, but we were very close to it. A lot of positive influence, my mother was a hard worker in East Orange, New Jersey, and City Hall, so I got a chance to meet very influential professional people. My brothers were very active, in their world and with music, as well as, I remember my brother taking me with him to Rutgers University, and I would just sit there in this university. I'm like, wow, and then, lo and behold, I ended up, becoming what I would consider a mild scholar myself. So just a lot of influence. the neighbor down the street, the neighbor on the corner, you know, who had a corner store, you know, all those different things influence you, and you don't forget those things and those people.
Yes, that's true. And it's so relatable, you know. Growing up in New York City, I can understand what it's like being in a city environment. It's definitely different, you know, than growing up in the suburbs. I definitely have my favorite corner store, you know, the bodega. We get our sandwiches, we get our food. Yeah, you know, it's good stuff, good times. Yeah, so that's awesome. That's awesome. Do you feel that growing up in that area shaped who you are today, from your career to your music?
Absolutely. I mean, my mom, you know, single parent, you know, woman raising 4 children on her own, went to school, raised us the best way she could. You know, she introduced me to Althea Gibson when I was a little girl, and I didn't want to play tennis. I just want to play kickball and chill, you know. And she's like, "Do you know who this is?" She wants to teach you how to play tennis. And I'm like, "Oh no!" And I mean, I gave her the riot act. Later realizing, you know, I could have been the next Venus. You know what I mean? I lost that opportunity. But, you know, I mean, like I said, you know, just general people in the area that, you know, back when I was growing up, it was each one teach one, and your neighbors looked out for you, or at least they tried to anyway. And it was just a different time back then. But, you know, you got to get close to your neighbors. Some of my neighbors from when I was little, they're still on my Facebook, you know, and I'm seeing them with children and grandchildren. And, you know, I mean, you never lose touch because it is a part of you. Coming from an area that is so heavily influenced with music and artists, you know, talent, you know, really had an impact on me. And even, you know, sometimes when ends were hard to meet, you know, understanding that struggle and being appreciative of things that you have and your blessings. I mean, everything is relative, everything.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Speaking of famous artists in neighborhoods, name some famous artists from New Jersey. I know there's a lot from your neighborhood.
There's a lot from my neighborhood. I mean, you know, I have a part of my content creating is called the Jersey Goat Spot, where you know, I feature people that I would like to think are goats, people who work hard and put the time in and the work in, and have something to show for it that they can share with the young people to inspire them. But I mean, we have Dionne Warwick, you know, God bless, you know, Whitney, she rests in peace, Tisha Campbell, Latifah, Wyclef, Lauryn Hill, Naughty by Nature, Redman. I mean, there's just so many people, you know, Shaq. You know, it just goes on and on. Bruce Springsteen. I mean, you know, Jersey is just that place. You know, where just so many people, for some reason, were inspired to pursue their talents. You can find these talents in every other state, every other city, but like the magnitude is amazing. So that was very influential as well. You know, to inspire me that hey, I can get some of that too. You know?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Growing up in New York City, you know, we also share that, you know, there's a lot of famous people from New York. So, and it's just kind of part of the culture. You know, it's like we knew the celebrities, we see them every day. We kind of just, you know, we're not too fazed by it though. We kind of just let them walk and have a normal life. You know, we're just used to it, you know. But growing up in New York City, New Jersey area, it's just part of our childhood. You know, we either dance, sing, you know, we have to have some type of talent, you know, and so we're always doing competitions, dancing, singing, everything.
Jersey was a vibe. I mean, having, you know, playing kickball, you know, I was a major tomboy, so I was doing softball and football and, you know, the hopscotch and the double dutch and the French. I mean, those were the days. You know, those were the days. I mean,
they don't know nothing about that.
No, they don't know about that. They don't know nothing about that. You know, but you know, it's a thing where, you know, those things again shape us and make us, you know, a lot more. I wouldn't say more grounded, but there is a grounding that happens. You know, to us, and it comes out into our professional lives and even our artistic lives, and we just take the good stuff and even the bad stuff and, you know, try to move on from it. You know?
I love that, you know, and I love that you brought back, you know, the double dutch and all that, you know.
What's the roll back?
You know, you could just be walking down the street and you see them going there and you just jump on in. You know, those were the days. You know, we had community.
Yes,
you know,
yes,
I feel like even in growing up in such a large city,
right.
you know, a lot of people think we lost that sense of community as compared to maybe growing up in a suburb in a smaller area. But no, I feel like we did have a sense of community. You know, the neighborhood, like you said, we had the games.
Right,
and, you know, somebody could be grilling outside in a parking lot, you know, and they would offer us a burger. You know, yeah. I had an open in the fire hydrant. What about that?
That might make fun of me because I mean it's just a part of us. And one day a friend of mine was someplace, and you know we were out having a good time, and I was thirsty, and it was a tailgate party, and I just wanted a beer. And so I saw these people. They had a big chest of beer. It was hot. I was sweating, and they were just drinking it. And I was like, "Hey, you mind if I get, you know?" And they were like, "Sure." They gave it to me, and she chewed me out. And I said, "What's wrong?" I said, "This is community. This is." And I said, "Maybe that's the Jersey in me. Like, that's comfortable, right?"
Yeah.
But yeah, you do get a sense of community, and we need more of that. And that's one thing I love about your podcast is I feel a sense of community, you know, with your podcast, because you bring so many people in from different cultures and backgrounds, and you talk about different topics, and that's what it's all about, is making that community happen. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I do. And so tell us more. So talk to us about your high school days, you know, growing up in Jersey. Did you experience any hardships, any challenges? I know that was a tough time in the inner city during those
well, I mean, not to show my age too much, but I mean things were different, you know. And I had a single parented mom, you know, God bless her, she's still with us, and hardworking woman, and she tried to move us from one neighborhood to a better neighborhood. That's what you do, you know. You try to like upgrade a little bit so your children have better exposure, and she did that for us. And so I went to like at least I was in two different high schools. I went to Essex Catholic Girls High School, where, you know, I was a classmate with Latifah, actually.
Oh,
yeah, cool. I was classmates with Dana, and then she moved to Union, and so I moved to Vauxhall and went to Union High School, met a lot of wonderful people there as well. And you know, it really wasn't a bad situation in high school. You know, going into a Catholic high school was pretty positive. You know, we had the basketball team and cheerleading and, you know, what have you. And then we moved into Union, where it was more, you know, scholastic-like and sports-like. You know, positive stuff there. Elementary school was pretty cool. I went to Lincoln School and spent time there. It's now called the Dionne Warwick Institute now, ironically. Yeah, and that's where I, you know, came up and met a lot of friends there. Some friends I still have to this day, you know, from grammar school. So I can say elementary and high school wise was pretty uneventful. It was just typical stuff, finding out who you are, you know, being an adolescent, growing, figuring your thing out, you know, giving your parents all the help you can possibly give them, and, you know, and just really grow. And I think that's when I kind of start experiencing a lot of things that I write about now through when I was a teenager in those high school times, actually.
Yeah, very nice, very interesting. Do you have any particular role models that stand out during that time?
During that time, there were quite a few. You know, my mom tried to introduce me to influential people to have an impact. I was in something called Jobs 100. It's interesting that you brought that up, where it was a program where you know, professional people in the community took on young people to teach them different trades. And so I worked with a excellent dentist at the time who, you know, motivated me through nursing school. The director of nursing at East Orange City Hall and East Orange Hospital motivated me. My brothers, some of their friends and their influence all had an impact on that. So it really made a big difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. I'm glad you were able to experience that program.
Yeah, it was very positive.
Yeah, and working with a dentist, that must have been quite the experience for you.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It was definitely an experience. I had a chance to work with the VP of nursing at one of the hospitals, and I shadowed her because I wanted to be a nurse one day. And you know, I mean, all those things. You know, you really have to help children, cultivate them to find their way, and surround them by people of influence that try to help them along the way. It makes a big difference.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
So we're going to go into our first break of the evening, but everybody stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk with Nurz Rap.
In a world filled with fleeting moments, there's beauty waiting to be captured. My name is Christian, and I specialize in immortalizing your most precious memories, from elegant weddings to vibrant events and timeless portraits. I'm here to make every moment unforgettable. Let me tell your story through the lens. Contact me today and let's create magic together.
Welcome back to Pink Table Talk. The show is produced by Lawin Media Network excuse me. You can catch us live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. Tonight we're talking with content creator, artist, and nurse, Nurz Rap.
Hey, everybody.
Yes, so we have a comment from our audience. Ty Dynasty said, I'm watching, it's gonna be lit. Well, thank you for watching, Ty Dynasty. They also say, hey, y'all.
Right. Yeah, that's actually my producer, my music producer.
Oh, wow.
I appreciate that love that he's bringing from Washington State.
Wow, very cool. He says, great talk so far. Yes, it's been an amazing talk. We also have a comment from Mimi Deborah. She says, we miss you, Dr. D. Yes, it's been a long break, and I'm just so happy to be back. And we have a question from our audience. Mimi Deborah asks you, what made you move from New Jersey to Houston?
Good question. Well, it wasn't a direct hit. I actually moved from New Jersey to Florida, and then from Florida to Washington State, and then from Washington State to Houston. You know, I was a travel nurse.
Okay.
And
Cool.
sometimes that requires you to move around a little bit, get a whole lot of experience, which was awesome. And you know, I feel Houston is my home. I think this is like my mainstay here. I love it. I love the people. I love the food. You can see I love the food. It's a beautiful state and a beautiful town.
Yes, awesome. I feel like everybody's story to Houston is like that. It kind of bounced around before it kind of landed here. So that's very interesting.
That's a good question.
We have there's another question. Mimi also asks, have you been into rap since you were younger? Ooh, good question, Mimi. Are you doing my job for me now, Mimi?
Well, actually, rap came a little bit later in my life. I was more into performing arts like acting, and taking some vocal lessons, more so. And rap kind of happened a little bit later. Once, you know, I kind of watched Latifah, you know, in high school, and watched her, and realized, hey, I can rap pretty good too. Let me get a little bit of this, see what I can do. You know what I mean? And it became something that I learned and tried to perfect. I'm still trying to perfect it. It's one of those sciences that you never really totally win. So it's a challenge, but I was actually writing poetry before I started rapping.
Oh, okay.
You know, part of writing. So not as a child rapping, but it definitely came a little bit later. Good question.
Very nice, very nice. And so what would you say are your musical influences?
Oh man, a lot of people say that, when I was young, my parents played music and the stereo was playing, I was rocking to the Jacksons. Yeah. That's the case with me as well. My mom had that big old block heavy, you can't move it with a tow truck type of stereo. And she played her music. My brothers are musicians. We got like a drummer, bass player, guitar player. And I just came up with it. Mom playing her music around the house and her singing and me singing. It just became a part of my world that I loved. And again, being from, New Jersey, East Orange, it's like you can just sit on your porch and you hear that boom, 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 boom. Music's everywhere. So yeah, music is definitely in me, and it came from a young age. My grandmother, she, even my grandmother, she used to love some Tom Jones. I'm going way back. She had the hots for Tom Jones, and I couldn't understand it. But even grandma, we grew up with music around us, and either, we adapt to it or take it on, or we don't, but it stuck with me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it seems that you had a love for music starting at a young age. But what inspired you to go into nursing? Tell us about that journey.
When I was growing up, my mom had 4 children, and 2 of us had sickle cell anemia. Rest in peace to my brother Jerry, who passed away. But 2 of my brothers had sickle cell anemia, and it was very difficult to watch them suffer as a child. You love your brothers, and they suffer so much. I mean, they were, turned out to be phenomenal men and scholars and hardworking. But as a child, there was nothing I could do. I felt helpless. And so I decided in my, little mind that I want to be a nurse one day so I can help my brothers. And so, I didn't help them directly, but, I started something called the sickle cell support group at one of the hospitals I worked at. And I actually had my brothers get involved with it because some of the patients that I had were so inspired by my brothers because you don't usually live past a certain age. Yeah. And when they saw my brothers, thriving and professional with families, they were inspired. So I started a sickle cell support group in honor of them. And, I might not be helping them directly, but I felt like I'm helping them indirectly by helping the community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I feel like every nurse has a story like that. I feel like we were inspired by somebody, a family member, friend, relative, or maybe their own health experience that motivated them, inspired them to become a nurse.
And then my mom threatened me too. I wanted to be a rapper. I wanted to go on Broadway, and she said, you got to get an education first. I mean, we fought for months on that, and I just wanted to be a star, and she just, made sure that I understood that you need something to fall back on. Yeah. So that she said, well, a nurse would be good, and I'm like, well, yeah, I was thinking about that. Yeah, you're right, Mom. And there I went.
Well, she was right. That at least going into nursing, It definitely is a great career,
right.
And it definitely has some longevity and helps you make a positive impact.
Right. That's how Nurz Rap was born, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so tell us, what was that journey to becoming a nurse like?
Well, going to nursing school around the time I did, and again, I don't want to put my age out there, but way back then, it was a thing where, to be honest with you, it was a lot of racism. To be honest with you, it wasn't easy. I had to move from one school to another school to escape racism. I mean, sometimes you have to look at the reality of what's out there instead of acting like it's not there. And, at that time, certain people didn't want to see Black nurses. And so they would do all kinds of creative things to bring down your self-esteem, manipulate your grades. I mean, I went through that, all kinds of things. And, I left one school, went to another, and it followed me. And you kind of think like, well, wait a minute, is it me? But, unfortunately what happens sometimes in those situations, one school, would talk to another school and it would follow you. It was a determination. And, I like to say my mom and I were more determined, and I made another step that was successful, where I was able to graduate, and I'm not going to say without issue, but I was able to become a nurse. And if you want to know what the issue is, I'm thinking about writing a book called White Dandruff, where I talk about that experience that I experienced. But, thank God I made it through determination and, the divine creator, and hard work.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Do you feel that going through those challenges to becoming a nurse made you a more empathetic and compassionate nurse?
I wouldn't say so. I was grateful things like that tend to make you bitter. You work, 4 or 5 years just to get your degree, and, things being piled on you and going through all that makes you angry. There was a little anger, but, even through all of that, I realized nursing is a very compassionate, loving field. And I love, people, being a nurse is a talent. And so I was able to build my love for, humanity again, because you get sometimes disappointed by some of the things that happen to you in your life. So I was able to turn it around, and I think my patients inspired me. Their stories, their situations really kept me going and helped me become more compassionate.
Wow, that's amazing. Tell us about one of those patients that inspired you, or that keeps you inspired.
Well, I've been a nurse a bit, right? I don't tell my age and everything, but I've been around the corner, girl. I don't know. Back when Florence Nightingale used to go to the store together.
Florence Nightingale.
Yeah, but there were so many situations, but one situation I can think of, working in critical care ICU, as you know, it's touch and go with life sometimes.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of patients don't make it out, and that's our job to balance and either try to keep them or unfortunately let them transition. There was one patient who was intubated. He had the works. You know what the works mean, right? You know what the works mean, right?
Tubes, IV line.
Yeah, he was very sick, and one day he was extubated. He had a trach, and he was like, I said, anything I could do for you? He's like, Big Mac. I was like, a Big Mac? I was like, you just survived, near death, and that's why he's like, that's all I want is a Big Mac. Now, I couldn't go get him a Big Mac. I wanted to. I thought about it, but I didn't do it. And he said, you know what? I explained to him I couldn't do that. You have a trach, sir. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you know what? He's like, I'm going to get off this ventilator and I'm going to get it myself. And he's like, when I get off this ventilator, I want you to get me a Big Mac. So, he was very, very sick. I really didn't think he was going to be able to get off the ventilator. But he did. One day I came to work and I heard somebody saying, Nurse Rod, Nurse Rod. And I'm looking. And lo and behold, he got off the ventilator and he was working with physical therapy.
Wow.
And he was like, you owe me a Big Mac. And I got him that Big Mac. So that was inspiration for me to see that, somebody near death can turn around, and ICU nurses can be very responsible for that.
That's awesome. What an amazing story, and shout out to him. He wanted his Big Mac,
That's
so
right.
He was determined.
Yeah, he was. I understand. Big Mac, right? I love my Big Macs too. You can see this, right?
Yeah, Big Mac is good,
I'm saying.
Yeah, that's that special sauce.
Like the White Castle, right?
Oh, now you're bringing it back. Like, oh man, I used to love those little tiny burgers.
Jersey.
Yes,
New York.
yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness, that's wonderful. This is just so amazing. We're learning so much about you, so much about what inspires you and how you've come to be who you are today, the artist and the nurse. So it's so inspiring. I'm loving this conversation. But we're going to go ahead and take our second break for the evening. But everybody stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk with Nurz Rap.
For divorce and family law in Texas, Liggett Dizon Law Firm PC will guide you every step of the way.
From initial consultation to detailed review of your case and strategic planning.
We'll sit with you during negotiations or mediations, and represent you in court.
Whether it is a family law, estate planning, or immigration, we will be there to guide through the final steps.
So, leave your legal matters behind you and embrace your future.
You can contact Liggett Dizon Law Firm PC at 346-5454-346 or visit DizonLawFirm.com.
Filing taxes, dealing with tax debt, or facing IRS actions is stressful, but you don't have to go it alone. Call 832-674-0829 or visit www.taxresolutionesq.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to Pink Table Talk. The show is produced by Lawin Media Network. Make sure you watch us live every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. So we're going to look at some comments from the audience. We have a comment from Jack N. He says, I'm here because of Nurz.
Hey.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. The dynasty is also thanking you, Jack. Oh, that's wonderful. We have a message from Elise. Hey, cuz, how much of your life do you incorporate into your writing and music? What a wonderful question.
Good question, cuz. Well, it depends. I mean, when you're looking at Nurse Rap as a artist, Nurse Rap is in Nurse Rap's world. Like, it's Gotham. It's like, I gotta get them. I gotta handle this. This patient, was abused, or this child was, hurt. I need to just go in there and get that. Or it's a situation like on the Cold Blue album where, it's the end of the album and it's called The Burn Addiction, and it's just like torment and mayhem, and but then when you look at Double D, the artist, because Nurse Rap is also Double D, those are things that are more home. That's a good question, where I might write about a relationship or dealing with my feelings or my emotions, or just being from Jersey, being a Jersey girl, right? That's a lot. So some of my life is influenced. My music is influenced with my work. That's a good question.
That's awesome. We have some more comments. Mima Deborah said, it's great to see nurses pursuing passions like this, since many are often too tired or busy. That's true. I'm glad you're inspiring not only nurses, but people in general by enjoying what you love. That's awesome. That's so true. It's very true. We also have Mimi Deborah. She says, I'm from the Philippines. I appreciate how you create content and promote Philippine music like SB19.
Hey, 18. I'm a cap.
While also educating people worldwide about important issues such as flood control. Yes, that is so true.
That's a good topic. I mean, I just posted something on my platform about the flooding situation. My social media manager is from the Philippines. I mean, young gentleman, and he handles all of my social media. And I mean, he shows up for me, and he does an excellent job. And a couple of times, he couldn't perform what he needed to do because of flooding. And he's like, I'm sweeping my house out, I'm mopping my house out. I'm like, what do you mean, bro? And he shows me pictures, and I mean, most of his belongings are damaged, and it just killed me. I'm like, bro, come here to the United States. I come here, I'll take care of you, and it's not that easy.
Yeah.
And my heart, I just did a topic on that alone, about just how heart-wrenching that is. Everybody should be able to live in dry environments and safety, and it hurts when people and you don't know have to live under those circumstances. So I totally feel it, and I'm very empathetic with it. So my prayers out to the Philippines and having to deal with those situations.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes. We have another comment. Shamima Deborah says, powerful way to launch the season 5, Dr. D. Thank you, Mimi, for being one of our dedicated audience members. And she says, I really love the setup. Yes, we're starting season 5 brand new. We got some new stuff here. We're trying to bring in more special episodes for you guys, which including great setups, great guests. And if you stay tuned for the second part of this interview, you'll actually see a performance by Nurz Rap. So you definitely have to watch us next week for part 2.
Yes, please.
Yes, so amazing. So, you're doing so many great things. You're inspiring people globally. So tell us more about Double D. We talked a lot about Nurse Rap. So tell us about Double D and what was the inspiration for her, and
well, it's kind of funny actually. The name Double D came because I was a voluptuous young lady. No kidding. And so, it was like that pride. I'm a big girl and I'm proud of it, So that's how the name Double D came about. But what really inspired me was a lot of opportunities to be signed to a major record label happened around that time. I got offered a deal, and then one, I believe I actually missed because of divine intervention. I don't think I was meant to be that celebrity that some of my cohorts are. I just don't think I would be here had that happened. And I think the creator kind of moved me out of the way of that and said, you know what, you're just gonna be an old rapper. You're gonna wait until you're 56 and then you're gonna pop off because it's safe for you, right? Not as a teenager, and I accept that. But when I started off, I was Double D. And, that's when I met a lot of people who were influential, who told me I had a talent. And I still hold that to my heart. But, again, Double D talks about everyday things. She's more of today's, like that Gen Z type of vibe, but still a little bit of the Jersey, that 80s, 70s baby stuff. I mean, it's just having fun. Just having fun. But she's definitely not the nurse. No, she's not the nurse.
We have some pictures of you here. We see you working as a nurse. We see some other musical inspiring. Oh, look at this look. I love this look here. I love your mask. I love how creative you are. So tell us, what inspires these looks?
Well, the mask itself is I believe every one of us has a mask that we wear in life at some point or the other. Nobody really sees all of us. Mm-hmm. And I believe that we hold certain things to ourselves. And nurse is the same, during the day, she's taking care of her patients, she's saving lives. But at night, she's coming to get them bad guys. It's mayhem out there. And so the mask just symbolizes having different aspects of yourself, holding certain things to yourself, and it provides, a different little mystery for Nurse the artist. Her little thing.
Nice. Thank you. Does Nurz Rap have any new music down the line coming?
Absolutely. Shout out to the Dynasty. I have an incredible producer, and he's like a brother to me. And we were very happy with the Cold Blue 1 album. It was our first album together. And we just did it. I think we did that in like a month. Wow. It was just like the vibe and the feelings came out, and he and I just clicked. But we have like Cold Blue 2 that we're working on, which is going to be more Gen Z vibe, and see if people can grasp it just a little bit more. I think Cold Blue 1 was difficult for people. It was very niche-y. And here it is, this nurse talking about like killing people. Like, I don't think I want to, she got a mask on. No, thank you. In the traditional hip hop world, and I believe it will see its light. But Cold Blue 2 is going to be a little bit different, a little bit more palpable for the community. So that is coming, and Double D as an artist has some singles that's going to be coming out soon.
Very nice. And so with Cold Blue, what is one of your favorite songs from that album?
I would say, each of them, is very different. Mm-hmm. You go from the check-in, when you come into Nurse's world, that's a ride, and then you go into the waiting room, and then that's a whole nother experience. Every song has a different vibe to it. I would say This Is Nurse. I would say, This Is Nurse because it explains, why is Nurse so angry? Why is she doing what she's doing? Where did this all come from? And, just being a nurse, working hard, and, some would say it's not as much as you should get paid, the stress of it all, seeing patients suffer and die, getting mistreated by patients, God knows. I'm sure, I got called some pretty colorful things during my days, but
this is true.
Going through that, and then, This Is Nurse is really a statement, where it's like, you call 911, you got a nurse on the phone, I'm not connecting you to nobody, I'm angry, and this is why, you got, different things negative things that are happening in society, and she speaks to those things, and it's a strong beat, it takes you there, so I would say that's probably one of my favorites.
That's nice. Awesome. And so what is inspiring you for this next album? Where are you drawing from that?
Well, it kind of just happens, the way my producer and I work, and we're such an amazing team. I just thank my creator for bringing us together. He's so talented, and we just clicked. I worked with a lot of producers over my years, major producers in New Jersey and New York, and I would have to say my relationship with him is probably he's like more of a brother. And so we're just gonna roll with the punches on this. We usually brainstorm. He comes up with the idea, I'll come up with the idea, and it just happens.
Yeah.
But one thing that we do want to do is make sure that it's just a little bit more, tasteful for the general public, as opposed to Code Blue, which was like, this is Nurse, you're in her world, have a seat. But I believe Code Blue is going to be a lot more able to be taken better by the general public, and not as niche. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm definitely will be excited to hear it when
Please
it comes
do.
out.
Have you listened to the album?
Yes, I have.
So what's your favorite song?
I have to agree with This Is Nurse.
Really? Okay.
Yes, I love
appreciate
that one. Yes, very good stuff. So, and if you haven't listened to her album, definitely check out her page. She has her music from Double D as well as Nurz Rap's content on her site. So definitely lots of great stuff, great content there, versatile music that can suit all people's flavors. I feel that she's a very versatile artist and that you guys will definitely enjoy what she has to offer.
Thank you.
Yes, awesome. So we are going to switch the hot seat around here and flip the script. Now you have the opportunity to ask me a question.
Really? Oh my goodness. Let me roll up my sleeves.
Don't go too hard. I mean,
you always got that nurse love. You got that nurse respect. I just want to say I really do appreciate your platform. I stumbled across your podcast and everything that embodies it. And as a nurse, as a professional woman, as well as an artist and a content creator, I can say that, you and your team are doing a phenomenal job. I really love your content, how you handle, your guests. And that, if you got nurse on here, then you can do anything's possible, right? But I appreciate that. I guess, being a fellow nurse and working in ICU, what would you say was your most meaningful moment or experience that you had?
Yes, I would have to say the same goes with my early part of my nursing career when I worked at Johns Hopkins Hospital, working for the neuroscience unit. We saw a lot of patients who we said they were all trached and pegged. Everybody there was almost pretty much mostly comatose patients. So we dealt with a lot. They had a lot of IVs, a lot of tubes. A lot of them couldn't even speak or barely open their eyes. So for me, seeing life, how fragile life is, gave me an appreciation for health and having a healthy body. Being able to have agency over oneself, get up, walk, talk, eat.
Yes.
Those are things that a lot of people take for granted until you see someone in those conditions. And what was most shocking to me was how a lot of them were healthy people. Yeah. Some of them were in this position, they had to bleed while they were running, doing their morning job, or they were at work and they fell off a ladder. And so it just made me appreciate life and the brevity of it. And so from there, as a young nurse, just seeing people in those conditions made me appreciate life. So I'll go for that walk. I'll enjoy time with my children, getting out and about, just being able to take it all in. It really is a precious gift that everybody should cherish.
Okay. I guess another question for you. Now, you asked me what does Code Blue look like in the future. So let me ask you, make a suggestion. What song do you think would be a great song for Nurse to do on her next album?
Oh, that's a great question. I feel that Nurse should take a look at the mental health crisis that we're seeing. And I think that she should tackle that situation, especially for here in Houston. We're seeing a lot of people who are burnt out, a lot of people who are just tired and angry, like you said. Yeah. So maybe she can kind of direct and help them to take care of their mental health.
Okay, all right. We'll put that in the production bucket. I'll definitely look at that. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're going to go ahead and take our last break of the evening. But stay tuned for more Pink Table Talk with Nurz Rap.
Join us for a captivating new series where Lawin sits down with the trailblazers of the music and entertainment world. Discover the stories behind the faces and voices that shape our culture and community.
We will bring you exclusive interviews with industry legends and rising stars. Behind the scenes insights and get a peek into the creative processes and personal journeys. Artists and performers and their upcoming shows and events.
Stay tuned for more updates and sneak peeks. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel.
Welcome back, everybody. This has been an exciting episode of Pink Table Talk. We've been talking tonight with Nurz Rap, a nurse, rapper, content creator, advocate, all the above, New Jersey girl.
Jersey!
Yes. So before we end for this part, we wanted to ask Nurz about any future projects. I know she's got some funding going on with through her Cash App, funding some of her future projects and work. So tell us more about that.
Well, I mean, it's just really in general. I mean, we all can use some help and show support, especially when we try and do something bigger than what we can do. And, I just throw it out there if there's any nurses or anybody who, who's interested in, chipping in or supporting, Nurz Rap or RamRodd Productions at any level, is always welcome and appreciated. But as far as future for me, I'm not slowing down. It's like, I turn 56 and I just start speeding up. It's insane, but, I do want to aspire to write a book about my experience in nursing school. It was I can say it was traumatic, that I think the public should know about it and a lot of people can relate to it. It's a very interesting story. So I hope to, publish my first book. And, there's a couple of things that I experienced as a teenager and as a child that I want to put in as a TV series. So there's a potential network looking. So my partner and I just have to finish up a little bit of the screenwriting and get those things out there. One of the situations a lot of people from New Jersey will be able to relate to, because it's a place in New Jersey that a lot of people know about. And I talk about my experience with that. That was really worth telling a story about. So it's more on the horror level and suspense level. The other story is about my experience on my street that I grew up on, an experience that I realized I had that I don't think my other neighbors realized that we experienced. So after looking at the situation, I said, wow, this will make a great TV series. And here I go. I just love to write. So, those are the writing things. As far as the nurse prescription spot, I'm still doing content. I'm trying to cover other countries. I'm looking at children from the Philippines. They have like a really cute show where the young people are actually doing like their talent show, and I go on there and I, give them love and support. K-pop, music from England, anything that is trendy. I would like to react to. The Jersey goat spot. If I can continue to meet goats from New Jersey, and they're everywhere, I would love to interview them on my show to inspire, our young people about what they can do and how they can make their dreams come true and what's required, to go after some of our aspirations. So, the sky's the limit. The next album that we're going to be working on is going to be something very exciting, and possibly doing some shows and, open mics and starting to do a little tour situation.
Wow, busy. You're a busy woman.
She's staying out of trouble, I'm telling you. I gotta stay busy.
Two idle hands,
I'm from Jersey, you know how we do.
Oh, wonderful though. So this has been really wonderful, very exciting getting to know the nurse part of Nurz Rap.
Yes.
But everybody stay tuned for part 2 next week, where we get into the music part of Nurz Rap,
yes,
including a special performance by Nurz Rap. So everybody make sure you stay tuned and watch us next week live on Lawin Media Network for Pink Table Talk. Thank you all for watching tonight. Have a good night.